ready to face some viewers. We'll wait for them to come in, and we'll join this arena in the meantime. Happy Sunday, everyone. As I get the stream set up a little bit here. New game will start in a moment on Leech Us. $1,200. Okay. It's kind of surprising that it would pair me against that. Let's play a Goring Gambit, though. Oh, knight takes d4. Spicy. What if I took on e5? What would happen if I took that one? Ooh. Interesting square for the knight. Okay. What's up, Ori? Blundering on purpose versus the Jobava worked for you. That is awesome to hear. We love blundering on purpose. If you hear that, that's... I'll turn it up a little bit so that it doesn't go unless it really needs to. But that's the air conditioner. And generally I'm someone who likes it really hot. Like, I don't really need it this time of year. But we are in the midst of an extreme heat wave here in New York City. Like, extreme. Let's just keep some pieces out of the square. Maybe we can pay you a visit when you open this diagonal. Not a ton going on here. But we can make something going on. All captures are reasonable. Let's go queen. Because we still attack this rook, and then maybe she can head in that direction. Knight on e6 is not doing a bad job. Okay, rook is defended. Yeah, let's send her this way and start having a look. Knight e6 not doing a bad job, but it's not on f6 where it would stop my queen from being here. Alright, send me a challenge. You need a fresh new gambit? Alright, I got you. I got you. You came to the right channel. Bishop g5. This is not a bad 1200. I mean, I was looking at this, and now, okay, they're trying to make a bunch of trades here. If I take, they take c1. I can probably win something. Yeah, I think here the knight was an important defender, right? So now I'll have enough attackers here. But if you take c1, hoping for like an exchange, what I'll do is I'll grab d... Yeah, I don't think this was going to work out. I'll grab d7. At this exact moment, I'm up a piece, right? So here, I just have an extra knight. Yeah. But if you took b2, which was a better shot, but rook b1, then I would stay up a piece. So we're up a piece here. Blundering on purpose versus the Jobava is a reference to, as Edwin wrote there, let's get this rook in the game. It's a reference to my video where we play knight c6 early on move 3 and bait them into knight b5 going after this. And they lose actually if they take here and take the rook. It's a really, really fun line. So love to hear that it worked out for you. Because it's hard to find something, for me, you know, I worked a long I was looking a long time for something against the Jobava. Because it's actually just, you know, when I'm trying to find a gambit, I'm trying to exploit kind of any weaknesses or holes the line gives up. But like here, like just developing your pieces and then e3, right? Like it's hard to find something wrong with that. So you got to bait them into into going fishing a little bit. Let's solidify the rook and go e5. Okay, we got a couple challenges here. Comment A, your username, and B, if you're subscribed on YouTube and on Twitch. So get to my challenges immediately after this game, after we send this pawn up. Welcome in, everyone. Alright, let's trade everything here, and I'm excited to get to your guys' challenges. What excites me most about challenges from viewers is the fact that my channel is a special, unique little snowflake. Alright, I see from 6R8 has commented. Oh, it's a rated game, okay. I know you're a subscriber on YouTube. Good luck, mute stream. Here we go. It occurred to me on your last stream, I commented that Alireza Firouzja was kind of hot, which I realized might have been rude, as you're obviously not chopped liver. Apologies if you felt slighted. That might be the best comment I've ever read out loud, and I've read a lot of comments out loud on my channel while live. I'm so flattered. I didn't even shave. Or, like, you know, put on anything or gel my hair. Nothing in preparation for this. So, like, I'm just, like, so flattered, and I just, like, threw on any shirt. He wrote, please don't Bob feel me. So to be in the same breath, even, as Alireza Firouzja. He wrote, please don't Von Popil me. But how could I, how can I not do that? You know, I said I'll do anything for my viewers, but I won't do that. Sorry. Gotta play the gambits. Gotta play the gambits. Where are the gambit classes? Let's get them on. No, Alireza is so well dressed all the time. Every time I see him at, like, tournaments. Let's get the gambit glasses on. Here we go. We got our gambit accepted. Gotta be careful here if you're black. You take f3, queen takes f3. I hit the bishop and this pawn. Not obvious, but he knows it. He knows it. He's faced this before against me, and he's a fan of my channel. We're hitting here and here. Okay, queen c8's a good move. Queen c8's a good move. The most common move is bishop c8, and when you undo all your development like that, you can run into trouble. Queen c8 is a better move to deal with here and here. We gotta be careful, because castle's long actually bishop to g4, and we will lose the rook that ends up there. So first what we're gonna do is bishop c4. And with bishop c4, we IF7. Now you gotta be, again, very careful if you're black, because if you play the most obvious move, e6, right? Because it's like, okay, you know, the bishop was eyeing f7, and you want to get your king out of there. But after e6, what happens is this knight gets soft, and you lose control of g4, blocking your queen, right? So e6, what will happen is I will go take, and then I will play g4. The queen no longer hitting g4. And then after the bishop moves, then I can take the f6 pawn. So he goes fishing himself. He goes fishing himself for this pawn, which is not so crazy, because it's not like, yes, like you're going fishing, but the bishop was A, a target, B, it stops my long castle, and I'm actually not sure what to do. So, okay, I do have rook c1, which is kind of the most obvious move here. Queen can't really come out, because queen takes b7, and it's not just a pawn there, I will take the rook and everything. So rook c1, let's say the bishop comes all the way back to g6. And then what can we do from there? So, like, the rook eyeing c7, do I have these ideas? Maybe. The other thing I was thinking is, like, just an 82. I'm trying to think, how does black want to develop next, right? Because they can't go e6 without me taking twice here. What they'll probably need is, like, c6, so that their queen is maybe a little bit free. This is an interesting... I've got a lot of options here. We've got a lot of options. I like knight e2 or knight h3, honestly. If I'm being real. Because e takes, queen e2 check actually wins the bishop, right? I'm actually wondering if I can win the game right now. Takes, and then getting to this square. Okay, let's just play something simple like knight e2. And we'll just be like, okay, we're down 2 pawns, but we got a great development. And our rooks are actually ready to take these files that are open, and we're just going to be like, okay, how are you going to develop? How are you going to get your king out of the center and towards safety? I think if I'm black here, I play pawn c6. That way, my queen... Okay, they do. It's a good move. Because knight c6 was the other option, but then I think bishop b5 is actually pretty nasty. So pawn c6. I think rook c1? There's queen f5 now. If I castle... I like just castles, actually. Because what I was most afraid of here was A, queen f5, proposing a queen trade. I don't want to trade queens because I'm trying to attack. And queen g4. But now queen g4 is off the table owing to this rook. I have a nice little tactic. Pause the video. No, I'm live. Bishop takes f7, king takes f7, and queen takes g4 with the rook pinning here. So they had to play e6, which I think is a big concession. I think knight d7 and trying to hang on. Although I was going to play d5, so I think that was tough. Oh, I don't know. But e6 here, yeah, so you're giving me this. No, I think this is just going to lose, though. I think it's just going to lose because I just go takes, takes, takes. And again, I got the rook here. Not only did I get my king out of the middle, but now I hit here and here. It would be one thing if there was just like rook g8, and then I didn't have the rook here, so there's no obvious follow-up. Like, then maybe you drive my queen away. But I can already take this, and I think we are crashing through. He wrote, I'm a Von Popio player, and I want to get ideas from you against this variation. So that's why he played it against me, which is actually really sweet. So I hope I've inspired some ideas. Let's have lethal on. So we have been able to crash through against this line. So it was interesting, right? So he grabbed this other pawn, and we just played. We just reacted very simply in 92. Like I could go rook c1 right now, but maybe I want to save my rook c1 resource for a little later. Hero, sorry for wasting your time. No, you did not waste my time. GG. Wasting my time. Absolutely not. Okay, interesting game. Thank you, Julio, with the sub. So, Von Popio Gambit, just as a refresher for anybody, for the uninitiated, is, well, we already started with it here against the Scandi with d4, right? And I'll get to my next challenge in a moment, just a very brief analysis. If you want to play the Von Popio Gambit every time, you can just play d4 first, and then get this position. Or if they play knight f6, you play knight c3, threaten a Jobava, after d5, takes, you get pretty much the same position. Not pretty much, exactly, identically, the same position. And with bishop to g5 first, right, what we often do is we draw out the most common move, bishop f5, so that we can take not just with the knight, but with the queen, attacking the bishop and the pawn. And like I was saying, so like, for example, bishop takes c2 here, queen takes b7 is not just a pawn, because when you hit that rook, you hit it pretty badly. Like, for example, here, we take c7 with 3 attackers on it, so that's not fun for them. Or, you know, you just let this hang, takes, and then, like, you have bishop to b5, winning queen and rook. So, you know, you can't just let that hang. So queen c8 was a good move, but bishop c4 is also a good move. And now it's, again, hard for black to develop because this queen is operating very well on light squares. If something like e6, take, g4, that's what I was talking about during the game, and the f6 pawn actually hangs on the other side, which is not obvious. And otherwise, knight to d7 to fortify is not possible. So it's actually a very sticky situation trying to develop if you're black here. Knight c6, I might go ahead and just pin that knight and cause you more problems. So in the game, bishop takes c2, which is interesting, right? So I'm down 2 pawns here, gotta justify it. And I just play the very simple knight e2, which is probably knight rook c1, knight e2, both all these were good moves. Knight e2 played. I don't need rook c1 yet. I can throw that in any time. c6 I think was a good move. I think is a good move, and like I said, I think you had to do it so that when you play e6, there's no d5. d5 can blow open after it's like e6 in a lot of lines, can just really blow open the center of the board right where your king is before you're able to escape, and the rooks can just kill you there. So if you are able to achieve c6 and e6, you shield b7, and also you control my one breakthrough. But to achieve e6, right, as I think you missed here, you need f6 solid. And so take, just crash through in the game. I think castles here was very important and well-timed, not just to get my king out of the middle, right, because typically I'm actually castling long and looking for d5. Here was a little different, because I wanted to stop A, queen to f5. I didn't want any queen trades, so my rook here would just take that free piece. And B, it also stopped queen g4, right? I talked about this tactic here, takes, and with that pinned. So it stopped both those resources, and like I said, put a lot of pressure on f6. I think needed here was knight to d7 to maybe set up e6 next turn, and then if black can have a few more moves in castle, they might just be up 2 pawns, but I'm not going to give them a couple more moves, right? So something like Yeah, the engine's recommending here rook c1, bishop back, and knight f4. Now if e6, there might be some... Oh yeah, look at the top line here. It's with rook takes e6. Just really, really fun sacrifices. I mean, I'm down a full rook here, but black is losing. Isn't this a fun way to play chess? Okay, we gotta put the gambit glasses on for something. In the game, just e6, which unfortunately for black here, they just blundered with the rook and the pawn hanging here. Yeah, tough when your king never gets out of the middle and your pieces just don't get off the back rank. GG. Play the Von Popiel Gambit. You can find, if you go to the link tree there, you'll find that all. Okay, Lethal One, I think you were next in the order. And he wrote me here that he subscribed. Good luck, Fools Mute stream. And following on Twitch. Von Hennig or Alien Gambit, which is better against the Caro-Kann? Von Hennig. Gotta be the Von Hennig. It is definitely more sound. It's also most popular. Do I listen to Christmas music while I play chess? No, I don't listen to any music while I play chess, actually. Alright, we tried. He might have had something prepped here, because typically when we play a6 against the English, they play knight b5, and then this is one of my favorite gambits, the alphabet gambit, drawing that knight off sides. e3 is not a common move against the English, or for English players, because typically with c4 you're blocking this diagonal a little bit and you send the bishop this way. But with the bishop controlling b5, we can't really just sacrifice a pawn right there. So, but it's more common to send your bishop that way. It is. Let's do e6. So we got to make sure a6 is useful, and if they're playing a queen, he can play this with or without d4 at this point. Could just play something solid like b3. Okay, let's play knight f6, which is categorically useful. Could play this with the queen's pawn. Just playing really solid. Alright, let's play d5, though. Now, with d5, we make a6 useful, and it's not obvious, but yeah, he took it, right? Because if he didn't, I would love to make that bishop move twice, like here, move once, move twice, and then hit it with b5 to get another tempo on it as I bring my bishop out. So with a6, we baited that capture, and baiting that capture is nice for us because our bishop is free. Our bishop is free. So that's fun. Let's put this bishop on d6. The other thing a6 does that's useful is otherwise here, like knight b5 would be annoying, and I'd probably have to spend a tempo shielding my bishop from that hit. Here I do not. If I were white, I would probably play without d4 at this point, because I think if I play d4, then this bishop never finds when they do it. But I think better to put the bishop on b2 and not leave that blocked. So after d4 here, I think we're in prime position to have some fun attacking. What I want to do actually right now, I think, is keep this knight out of the e5 square. And let's do that with this solid move, queen to e7. I don't want knight e5 and f4. I think that's the one thing that would bother me. And I think that's what they set up. So we're going to keep that not happening. Also with queen e7, I feign maybe I'm going long. So they have to consider that. I also, the only thing this bishop can do right now is trade off on a3. So queen b3, they're eyeing d5. I think, you know, we can just keep that really quite solid here with c6. There's nothing going on. It wasn't even necessary. This was well defended. Also, but with c6, I want to move this light square bishop, and now this queen will guard b7. So, right, I see there's no way to attack all this. This is a very solid structure. I mean, the one thing they can do potentially is bring this knight into b6. So they just play rook e1, trying to find something to do. I will bring my bishop to one of these squares. Let's say f5. Right, so the only breakthrough would be e4 because I've delayed castling so long. But it's not really there because I have it very well controlled. Knight d7 I can't really play because this would hang. So, I mean, look, I could do this. We could. Who's stopping me? Alright, let's just castle, though. I think it's hard to find an idea if you're white here. You don't have knight e5. You don't have a minority attack here, which is what you want to do against this structure. It's very, very, very solid. And you don't have the e4 break, which is also very well controlled. So I think that's a tough situation. So it's okay. They throw knight h4 at me. I don't quite have takes and knight g4 check winning this knight, because they can take it. Takes bishop h3. Okay, I'll just kind of assume I don't have it, even though I almost have it. Where should you go? Should you just go back? Maybe. But should we try something more exciting? Let's give this... No, because I don't want knight f5 at the end. They won't have it. Let's go with bishop here. I like this. So bishop e6 was also like perfectly playable. And then the knight is a little bit off sides here. All right, so like the other thing I could have done if I really wanted to stop this is just played h6, so my bishop has that nice little storage square. Then the knight, you know, is not well positioned here. So with this trade, so they could play bishop d3, which honestly is probably what I would go with, but then I jump in knight e4. The other thing I could have done, okay, so they just go back, right, because the knight was going to get hit here by my queen, something like that. So if I play your knight d7, queen takes b7, can I trap the queen? Probably not. So let's just jump in knight e4. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to play knight d7. Maybe I should play here. No, I'd like to play knight e4, though. Now, if you're white and you're trying to find something, you might look at knight e5, just owing to the fact that, like, after trading here, I might not be able to grab this because of your pressure on b7. If you give me another move here, I'll probably play f5. Like, I'd like to do this, but okay, I can't yet. So h3 played. Let's just pull back to... Maybe I pull back here, honestly, if I'm trying to get this knight out. But no, it's fine. Let's come back. Maybe let's not waste so much time on it. It's not a huge decision. Let's just come back to this nice solid f5 square. Actually, no. Let's come back here. This I actually kind of like. Because I actually don't want knight takes e4 that much, and now there's not knight takes e4. Other thing is I wanted f5 still. So they pull back to hit my knight again, but yes, now I think... Well, bishop f5, bishop d3, so let's just play f5. And now with knight e5, I probably don't want to allow f4, so what I'm going to do is maybe look to play f4 myself. Thinking about it. You know what I like, actually? I like this move. I like this move. I think it's hard to defend f2 right now, unless you want to take me, but then f takes e4 is very pleasant. How do you defend f2? You gotta go rook f1. Gotta go rook f1. And then I wanted, like, f4. Take, queen takes. Let's say bishop d7, f4. Okay, you know what? We're just going to play here. Okay, so f4 is going to happen, but then I played g5, I think. Oh, they go there. Okay. I think it was better if they played f4. Because now I want g5 myself, but we're so low on time, and I forgot this is no increment. But I think we just attack. Alright, let me try to play this quick. Bring my other rook to e8, I'll play g5 and g4, right? It's not a lot that white can do, because they got that dark square bishop jammed in, and I think we're generating the attack the way we wanted. Queen actually could have pulled to f6, would have been more logical, just to put pressure here. But I think we're going with this, though. Yeah, tough for them because they're not getting out their pieces. I didn't have to end in the square, but I mean, I did that, but then I got my stuff, right? I got my stuff. Is this a problem? No, I'll play rook e7. Oh, just stepping into the line of fire. G4 g4 looks good. g4 looks very good here. Oh, also that line of fire could have probably just brought that bishop back. This wasn't hanging any longer. But here g4 is going to be very, very strong. And I think this is actually a good example of what to do against these lines. Should I play this with f4? Yeah, I think this is even stronger. g4 is also good, but f4 opened that, right? g4, there's knight h4. I mean, okay, I think I was winning as well. Let's go... It takes... Trade... Now I'll take... So they gotta go bishop takes f1, because they never even got that out, right? That was part of the point there. Now I'm gonna eat this. Very clean pawn hitting g3. Oops. Wait, that was just winning. I expected them to defend it instinctively. But now actually takes will stop rook f2 and my capture on g3. So maybe I will play... Wait, oh. Queen h3 would be mate. With that pinned now. So king g1, but then I'll probably take it and then take here with the bishop's defense. That's checkmate. Oh. Okay. I was like, what? It's not checkmate. Okay, good game. Good game. This is actually, it was a very instructive example, I think, of how to play against, like, kind of these queen's pawns positioned. So c4 was played in the game. And let me talk a little bit about, like, the opening at the end, but I think it just transposed to something that maybe, like, a lot, like, is much more common, like this position. You know, you might get, like, you know, just pretty standard chess game, like here, 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 here. This, let's say, take. This is would be a direct transposition. Okay, with this move a6 included, right? Just a queen's pawn position, and so that's what we got. But let me talk about more about why we play a6 on the first move after the analysis here. So d5, and why I got c takes d5 here. And it was, you saw how important it was, because if I didn't get c takes d5, let's say they were just kind of able to do this, and so we get kind of the same positions in the game. First of all, c5 can be annoying. But second of all, like, what do I do with this bishop? And if I don't get anything with this bishop, then I'm not getting e4, I'm not getting f5 probably, and then, you know, the same attack and nice position I got in the game. Also with e takes d5, very important. Not only did I get the bishop here, but I got control of this file, and there was no e4, right? So you can imagine if I'm just, so let's say it's white to move, and they're kind of doing the same thing. Here, like they can break with e4, freeing their bishop here. So like this trade happens, and white here has just like a very pleasant position because I wasn't able to control this break in the center. And now they've got, like, the rooks will come here and everything's nice for them. But in the game, I played a6. Why does a6 get me the c takes d5 capture? It's because if you proceed as normal, then I will play d takes c4. And you've moved once, and now you move twice, right? So d takes c4 is something I'll hold probably until you move the bishop once, because I love making you burn a move here, boom and boom, rather than just one beautiful first move capture. And now I'll play b5 immediately with the pawn's support here. And I'll play b5 immediately so that, you know, the bishop comes back. 1, 2, 3 moves, which is very nice for me. And now I'll take this gorgeous diagonal, and it will have its friend on the other gorgeous diagonal pointing at your king, and we'll go from there. So this is what I was looking to do. If I were white here, what I probably would have done in terms of my setup is, because I don't want to have to move this bishop again, but I also don't really want to go c takes d5 and give them this open diagonal. So what I'd play is actually b3, because d takes c4 here is playable, but maybe not the best, because I think you could play pawn takes c4 and actually maybe have a nice center. And, okay, let's say I proceed kind of as normal. Now the bishop comes to b2. And I think the bishop needed to come to b2 anyway, because with the pawns on d2 and e3, you saw in the game, like, they were playing d4, but then they never achieved the e4 breakthrough. And so this bishop was just jammed in on c1. But here, the bishop actually has a nice diagonal here, and I think white's okay. There, the position's about even. But after c takes d5, e takes d5, I'll go through this analysis pretty quickly, and I'll get to the next challenges soon, guys, I promise. Takes, so we castle, my bishop develops directly to d6, which is a nice spot, pointing at h2, and d4 here. Yeah, I think b3 would have been probably a little bit preferable, but okay, d4 here, and I played here queen to e7. Why did I play queen e7? Well, if I castle knight e5, and let's say, like, now I do something like this, I think f4, and this isn't the end of the world by any means. Like, I don't know, this might have been totally fine. I can probably just drive it away with f6 next turn, although, you know, white can do some annoying things here, like hit d5 or hit f7 while this knight hangs out in my face. But I didn't want this knight in my face, and I'm also playing queen e7. Because I'm staying a little flexible, I could castle long. I could. And I also don't, like, I don't want e4 happening at all. at all, because that would free this bishop. And also, I thought white's best idea with this bishop was actually b3, and then, okay, let's say I do something, and then bishop a3. And trades off for my very nice dark square bishop here. I have light square center pawns, and they have dark square center pawns, so that makes their dark square bishop bad, jammed in by their center pawns. That makes my dark square bishop good, not jammed in by my light square pawns. But they could make that trade happen, and that kind of it would be the centerpiece of my attack, this guy pointing towards their king. But with bishop to a3, that would be a very good trade for them. So with my queen on e7, that kind of takes this idea off the table, and it was really their only spot they could go. So queen e7, very flexible, useful move. Queen b3 played, which puts pressure here and here, right? And I'm just being like, okay, I'm playing c6. And c6 is another very useful move, because I'm definitely not playing c5. This pawn trade is not what I want. A, that bishop now has a nice diagonal. B, like this gets attacked again. It's just an isolated queen pawn. So I'm never playing c5. This pawn is definitely going to c6, and I want to open up the defense here and bring this out. And I expected this knight coming to c3 probably anyway, and this pawn is where you want to be. That distance away from the knight keeps the knight out of these squares. In general, against this structure, what you're looking for if you're white, let's say I could give white just kind of a bunch of moves in a row, let's say that pawn weren't hanging, I mean there's a lot for them to orchestrate here, but they don't have good play on the king side. What they could have is playing for like this move b5. And when you play for this move b5, then you're making some sort of pawn trade here, let's say, opening files, making d5 weak, right? But I have a very, very solid setup against that. It's, as you saw, it's very hard for them to achieve that. The pawn getting to b5 would A, need that pawn support, B, this pawn would have to get to b4, where I'm also controlling that a couple of times, and the queen is a little bit in the way. So c6 played, right? Not obvious what to attack here if you're white, because this is so solid. So just kind of playing rook e1, maybe looking at e4 someday, but I'm like, no, that's not happening. I have this bishop that's not blocked in by anybody, and the queen defending b7, so this is very solid. Also, no knight e5, no e4, no minority attack, nothing to do with this bishop. Tough to find something to do, really. Knight to d2, logical move. I mean, knight on c3 wasn't going to fare any better, and this bishop wasn't coming out that way anyway. Simply castles here. Knight to h4 was kind of an annoying move for sure, because I liked my bishop there. The engine wanted probably literally anything other than what I did. Even bishop to c8 was a reasonable choice, because just to get this knight out. Bishop to e6 was a reasonable choice. Bishop g4 was, okay, the third best move, because the top choice was, okay, we wanted them to trade. But, I mean, in theory, like, that is, the good bishop for white, the light square bishop. That's probably their best piece with the dark square pawns. Like, that bishop could be on d3 and have a nice time on that diagonal. So, okay, but bishop to g4 played. Anyway, knight to df3. The engine would have wanted the light square bishop trade, probably because pieces on the board is good for the side that's attacking, and I'm looking to generate some attack. So the knight comes back there. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, because, like, any knight move I'm going to play, like, you can imagine, I don't know, like, let's say this knight comes to e4, hitting here, like, something like this, the knight's actually out of squares if I take away that. So, I don't know, here, he drives this back, and it's probably not fun. I can play h4 or f4. So in the game, I understand, like, that when the knight comes here, if it's not making a trade immediately, it can be in some hot water. So he immediately pulls back knight f3, and now we jump in knight to e4, which is fun stuff for me. Yeah, if you take this, this looks pretty good for black. Like, let's say knight to d2, I'll play like something like bishop to e6, and I'll play like queen h4 attacking h2, I'll try to bring the rook across with f5. Basically, white doesn't have anything so much in the center or on the queen side. We've done a good job controlling that, and we're able to dedicate a lot of resources then, if like there's no counterplay going on, to focusing on the king via this bishop. So knight to e4 played. Yeah, you want to keep probably a knight in f3, because h2 is under pressure, and they're not able to achieve again knight e5 and f4 in those follow-ups. So h3 played here. I just come back bishop to e6, so this trade's not even happening, because the queen and knight would both be hit here. Queen to c2 to get out of the way of that, but now f5. f5 is what I wanted to play to really lock down this knight, and now with the whole position really well under control, I have the center controlled, I have this controlled, right? Imagine, I want to play g5, basically. I want to play g5, g4, open this up onto their king, and, get rolling with my rooks in this direction right where their king is. And the reason I can do that is because the rest of the board is controlled. Like, I keep saying that. But, let's do an exercise here. Imagine these were off the board. Imagine those pawns weren't on the board and then I was doing this. That would look much less safe for me. Then b3, bishop b2, and like, okay, the queen and bishop could be here, eyeing g7 and h8, for example, right? But because it's so close, because there's no open files or anything really white can do on any of these lines, that allows me to play g5, h5, g4, and not make my king unsafe. Because my king's only unsafe if you can get to my king. Here, white has no way to get to my king, right? The only way to my king would be the side that part of the board that's opening, which is the king side, which I will control when that opens. I can play here and then play g4 at my leisure and make sure like I'm playing f takes g4 if I want that one, or h takes g4 if I want that one, and control just just the h files opening, and I'll be ready for that. I'll be like here, and try to get you on h1, for example. So it's about controlling the whole board, right? And then we can look to attack, because you're not going to be able to get to my king, and I'm able to cheat the rules of pushing pawns in front of my king because you're not getting to my king at all. It's the same sort of principle, right? If we're in, to take a ridiculous example, if we're in a king and pawn endgame, just kings and pawns are on the board, I can bring my king all the way to the center, totally open, right? Obviously, and that's even a good idea. Why? Because nobody can get my king, right? Nobody, there's literally no pieces on the board that are going to do damage to my king. Here's the same sort of principle. What piece is going to get to my king, right? Nobody, because the board is closed. So that's what makes this position tough for white. The 85 is a good move, because that is jamming in diagonal I want to use. Let me play here. So if I do nothing, then like f3 could drive my knight away. f4 could really solidify that knight in my face. So it's not obvious that I should just kind of go with g5 just yet. So I play queen to h4, which is a nice move, hitting f2, which is kind of like the one thing I can attack. And I'm trying to draw knight takes e4. F takes e4 would be a beautiful recapture for me, because this would open up my rook onto f2, and it would open up my bishop onto h3. So my queen sits really nice here, and there would be no knight coming to f3, which would block those things and attack my queen. So very smart of white not to take that knight, even though it's doing a lot of annoying things, and instead play this move rook to f1. Yeah, you also can't really play like f4, because I think I'll just drop in for a check and maybe take some of these guys, or like get you on g3. But f4, like, it does kind of halt like me trying to play f4 and open up my rook and bishop. So it is something to keep in mind. Rook to f1, play knight to d7. And yeah, I commented this during the game. f4, I think, was an important move to find here if you're white. Even though it's ugly and you're giving up these squares, and like I think, yeah, I was going to follow with like knight to g3. Okay, rook move somewhere, and then like I can take this bishop, which is quite valuable if I want to, or even come in with the other knight. Like, okay, we both have outposts, but I think it's important for white to do this, or else like I was really going to flow with these pawns, which is exactly what happened in the game. So f4, like I'll still at some moment probably try to play g5 and rook to g8 and get you on this file, but I think f4 is needed, or else yeah, like these pawns will just go. With knight to f3, I can just back up, and like, yes, it looks like it makes a lot of sense and doesn't create weaknesses, but I can now play g5, g4 much more easily without this pawn kind of stopping me. And so you kind of see exactly how that happens here. It's kind of hard to recommend something for white, honestly. And it doesn't even look like white's position is so bad, but slowly we've been building this up. Bishop to d3. Now I'm just activating my last piece, rook to e8. And finally we get everybody into the game. This knight, this rook jumped into the game. Because, yeah, I think the best idea for white here is takes and maybe knight e5. And then again looking to play f4 to stop this. It's not obvious that, like, you should be stopping this. Like, that's going to be my idea. But I think that was needed here. I think it's probably still, yeah, still quite good for black, because I can probably follow with g5 right now. And yeah, start using these lines for my rooks onto that enemy king. Again, you want to open it up when their piece, like, it's totally fine to have a totally deadlocked position where nothing's going on if your pieces are dead, because nothing's going on anyway. But now I want to make stuff going on to underscore the fact that you can't really use these guys, whereas I can use my rooks if there is a file to work with, right? So open files here is going to benefit me, as long as like I don't free these guys, which I'm not here with just this trade. Just this trade keeps it under control, right? There's no e4, my knight's doing a great job here, and rook to g8, right? It's not like these pieces are going to be doing any better, but my rooks might be if I put one here, right, hitting g2, h3, etc. So that's good stuff. In the game here, bishop to d3, rook e8 takes away this idea of knight to e5, and we control that very well. I have lots of time here. I have lots of time to kind of do whatever I want. King h2, yeah, it kind of makes g5, g4 even stronger. I mean, it's not obvious that was the idea. Bishop to d2, I was probably, yeah, just playing g5, and I think this is like a really, really nice position for black as I play g4 at my leisure, and I can even prepare that as I need to. In the game, king to h2 looks like a solid move, because it looks like maybe my idea, I guess, is f4, trying to play like bishop takes h3. But in the game, yeah, king to h2, so guarding h3 one more time. I just play g5 here, because g4 is going to hit the knight, owing to this pin now, and white's position is kind of collapsing here, so this is tough. g3 played, it's trying to shield against these things, so g4, maybe knight to h4, so you don't lose on h3, but even better than g4 here is, I think, the move I play in the game, f4, opening up this light square bishop, right? The light square bishop had looked kind of dead with the light square pawns, but we had the mobility to play f4 to free that guy when the time came, And now our rooks, right, everything's getting blown open, but it's getting blown open at the exact time I want, right? So it's not like my king is under imminent danger. Let's say, like, there was here, like, check, and, like, bishop, and, like, that diagonal were open. Like, yeah, I could get mated. I could get mated like that. Like, I just kind of took away all the pawns away from my king. But my king, like, let's even say this happens. First of all, g takes f4, queen takes h3. It would checkmate you. But let's even say this happened, right? There's no other piece that could get me, and that's what makes the difference in the game. That's what allows me to just get away with doing this. Or like a bishop on b2, queen on c3. Like I said, if that diagonal were open, I would have to guard g7 and h8 if I didn't have this pawn here. So in the game, f4, knight to g1 played to defend h3, take, and so not even rook takes f1 is available because of the lack of development, which is tough. Bishop takes f1. We just take our extra pawn here. The advantage here now building to -6, as all of our pieces here are now doing excellent jobs, hitting lots of targets. This is tough for white here because I think knight e2 is the only way to guard g3. But now after rook to f8, hitting the bishop, and now like pouring into f2, this would be just about ball game, as all the pieces are doing a great job. And you saw here, nobody's getting to my king. Like I opened exactly what I wanted and nothing more. There wasn't like a crazy race where they were crashing through here and I was trying to crash through here. So that we were able to keep that under control. In the game, bishop to g2. So I probably should have grabbed on g3, but I kind of didn't notice it in the right here. I think you have to give the queen. I didn't notice it in the heat of time trouble. So now I think takes e4. Okay, I mean it's still not great for white. But anyway, knight e2 covering g3 here, and it gave me a chance to play rook to f2, attacking h3. And really, I can't even try to find a way to defend it. King g1. Okay, I'll just take h3 or take g2 or something like this. So we just took h3 and checkmate. So a really good game, and I hope a really instructive one about, you know, how to play against these queen's pawn structures and the importance of getting that bishop out. Because you can imagine kind of if we had the same sort of position, but like, let's say here, but without e3. Like first you play bishop to g5. And so, okay, let's even say I defended this pawn, and now you develop right to d3. Like I can't get in all my stuff. I can't get in knight e4 so easily, right? It's just the only difference, really, that I just made is the bishop on the other side of this door. But it's doing a good job here, and at some moment, if white wants to play e4, they can. If white wants to play knight e5 and f4, they can, and this bishop isn't even so jammed in. And, you know, white's the one kind of looking to maybe hit on h7 as a result of this pin and such. So it makes a big difference. It makes a big difference. That's why if e3, like I was saying, might be better to put the bishop on b2. Tough to kind of play without that piece, and that's kind of what we played against. Why we like this line so much, and e3 was a good move against this line, because I wouldn't want to just do this. Here I feel like I'm down a pawn, with just bishop takes b5 is not so bad of a recapture for white, though should be able to castle without issue. But why we play a6, okay, I'll talk about knight c3 and what we're doing here in a second, and why we give this pawn. But most of the time, if they're not doing that, as an English player, if you play c4, most English players like to put their bishop on g2, because c4, like I said, it blocks this diagonal. What we can do against this, which I like very much, is actually like is set up with e5. And here, what I like, and I have this on my channel a little bit, is to attack either with h4 or with f4 against this. So if e3, for example, okay, we can store our bishop on a7 first of all, which is very useful. a6, bishop a7, right? Because you can imagine here something like d4 or a3 and b4. They love to play to attack this bishop, but the bishop's doing a good job here. And now if castles with the knight on e2, what we can do is go for h5, h4. So like let's say here d3, we play h4. The knight on f3 would stop that, but it's on e2. So we waited for that, and then we went with h4, and now, okay, we can do something like, okay, I mean, this is pretty abbreviated stuff, but the bishop can develop right to h3. We played h4, right? And so now what we can do is look for like this swap. We got him with h4. We took away a defender around the king and opened up the file for our rook, right? There's no pawn in the way here. We also traded off for that defender. And now with queen d7 castles, this is kind of the attack that we would look for with the rook support. So we need the bishop on h3, and we need the pawn on h4 some way or another. And the bishop here is useful because that's what might make them play e3 and put the knight here. Because if they put the knight on f3, here, let's say bishop a7 now, right? We want to get out of the way. If they put the knight on f3, it could be a little bit different. You don't want to play h5, h4, because, like, very often, okay, they can even just play h4 themselves, and that might be hard for you to play g5. What we can do is we can look for f5, f4. So this is a new sort of Grand Prix attack. This is, well, not new, but it's a different idea. The knight on f3 stops h4. The knight on e2 stops f4, right? So we wait for them to go to one or the other, and we can make a lot of useful moves in the meantime, right? So let's say they play d3, I play d6, let's say bishop d2, I play bishop a7, right? Now I'm seeing whether I want to do one or the other. I'm not going to do both, right? Like if I play f5, then they might play e3, and play knight to e2 and then shut down f4 with the knight controlling that idea. And if my pawn's stuck on f5 and it can never get to f4, then it's going to just be blocking this bishop from h3 for a long time. So I want to kind of read the defense. If e3, I'm going to go for h5 probably. And if knight to f3, I'm probably going to go for f5. So, like, yeah, so something like this could happen. And the point of this Grand Prix attack, which I play kind of a few times, is that we would now go for f4. Okay, they're doing something. We played queen e8, and we have this nice route, queen e8, queen h5. This pawn's on an f7, and this pawn's not on an f5, which would block both of these diagonals. And from here, right, so you saw how the h attack works, right, with the rook support here. Now this is the f-file attack, which can work from, like, let's say, okay, they're doing something here. We're still going to go bishop h3 just with the queen support from here instead of the queen support from here. Okay, they do something else. And now knight to g4, and now we got him, right? So this bishop is going to be doing a great job. I didn't really do anything useful for white here, but you can imagine, like, this trade happens with this pawn being pinned. Takes, and now we just need to crash through, like, one more time. So this attack is very, very fun. It's my... I love this little Grand Prix attack. If the knight's on f3, it does nothing to stop this pawn advancing all the way to f4 with this nice little maneuvering. So a6 is a very useful move in that regard. And you saw if they're kind of playing like queen's pawn setups, it's a very useful move in the sense that it's either going to bait c takes d5 to open this bishop, or it's going to draw bishop like bishop e2, and then we play dc4 and b5, hitting the bishop with tempo and developing right to the b7 square. So that's kind of what we're looking for against this. And yeah, so I touched on that a little bit. And then, yeah, so for the full repertoire, I'll link the other video on my channel of why this gambit's so effective. But they take on b5 here. Okay, a lot of English players will follow knight c4 with knight to c3. So b5 here, they take on b5. This is a really fun one because what we do is we play d5. Okay, they do something. I mean, very often, actually, I think the most common move is knight c3, and we can really, like, harass this poor knight here, trying to, like hit it a million times and take the whole center, and they can even get trapped in this line if they're not careful. And if they play d4, then we just need to sacrifice, like, an additional pawn after e5 takes in d4. This is, like, really, really, really fun stuff. Just chasing this knight all around the board, and they have no clue what to do here, because, like, no English player expects anything like this. Otherwise, like, we take the whole center, and there's also really fun attacks that can come from here. But this is, like, a really nice gambit. It opens these files, and it gives us a really, really pleasant center that's kind of, like, impossible to hit. So, really fun gambit here. I'll link the full alphabet gambit video on my channel. But yeah, I really like playing a6 against c4. We can always make it into a useful move, whether that's for d takes c4's sake, whether that's for storing the bishop on a7's sake, or whether that's for gambiting on b5's sake. Okay, subscribe. Let's get to the next challenge. Okay. Mr. Bader Aid, I will accept your Silly William Gambit challenge. Good luck, sir. Does a4 counter a6? It could, but it will weaken the b4 square. Alright. I'm actually not certain what to do here, but this comes out of a from position that's very interesting. I think what I want here... Should I go here? Should I go here? Should I go here? This is actually very fun stuff. Okay, I'll go bishop d7, I think. I'll go bishop d7, try to play knight d4. I'm hot. Let me know if, like, the audio of the air conditioner is too much, guys. Thank you for the game, Lethal Alone. Worried about f4. Yeah. You rule, man. Hope to see some more vids of crushing title players soon. Keep up the great gambits. Aw. Appreciate it. You got it. Take d4. I like that, actually, idea. Because my knight wanted to come to d4. My knight definitely wanted to use that square. Okay, what I'm gonna do... Oh, wait. Well, if I castle... Is there check? Bishop d7, d5. Check, c3. It's not really what I want. Right here. I don't want to trade queens. Okay, I think I can take this. Because I think it's a problem for white if I get queen b4 and queen takes b2. But d4 is annoying because I did want to move this to free that bishop. But if they hang out in the middle too long, then what I'll do is I'll castle and I'll get them on the E line. Do I recommend Scotch opening for below 1100? Sure. I think, in general, it's not important to memorize theory at that point. No one's going to follow it anyway. Just opening principles, just get your king out of the center, develop your pieces, have a plan of what to do next. Most of the time, especially, you know, up to a pretty high level, game is decided by, like, tactic or, like, blunder is kind of a harsh word, but it's generally decided by tactics happening to you or to them. So I would focus on that more so than, honestly, I'd focus on specific opening theory. He recommends the Goring Gambit with c3. In my experience, it works at all levels and is absolutely busted. Love it. I didn't know we used busted like that. I have several 100% accuracy wins against 2100 in Rapid because they don't know theory. Nice. Yeah. What do I recommend against the Collie system? I have a hard time fighting against white center because of how quickly they're able to assemble their diamond. I guess slaughtered on the king side. Honestly, what I like doing as soon as I see that, like d4 and e3, is I actually like Fiend Kettle like a King's Indian, because I also, the other thing is, they might be playing a Stonewall. And the way to play against that is to play d6 and to do exactly what they don't want, what Stonewall players don't want, which is to try and achieve e5, right? Which just like, you know, bust right through their nice little triangle setup, as you mentioned. If you just, you know, castle here, d6 and d7, and then just play e5, like that's really what they don't want to see. And so even if their pawn's on f2, I think that's still pretty effective. Then you can play e4 from there, and then you can generate kind of King's Indian attack ideas like rook e8, knight f8, here, bishop f5, h5. So I think that's like a pretty nice way to play against it. Okay, here we are facing the e2. What happens if I castle and knight d4? And I go, let's say, I think, is in that position, I think if I go rook e8, that's pretty annoying. Because bishop e3, I have queen b4, c3, queen takes b2 with the rook hanging. So I think what we're going to do here is just the pretty simple castles. So they can castle short, which I think is better than knight takes d4. But if they castle short, maybe I should have stopped it with rook h7. If they castle short, yes, they're castling into these files, but they do get their king out of the middle. Castles rook h7, bishop f4. I think this is okay for white. Knight d4, I think the problem is rook e8 check. And then how do you shield that check if not having to move your king? Because bishop e3, queen b4. If the knight moves, then it will take that knight, right? Because that bishop is pinned in that position. Although it's not so obvious, because bishop e3, I go queen b4, they go c3, queen b2, this is hanging. But then I will play... Probably... I think we're good there. I think I just grab the rook. Grab this rook. It can get pretty crazy. I wouldn't go into that if I'm white, though. I think castles... So they go for this. I think the concern, though, about moving that bishop should be check and takes, but it's actually not as clear as I thought. Because queen b4... Queen b4... That was a bug. Oh, I caught him, I think. Queen b4... Knight d2. Knight e4? That's actually a pretty nice line, if I do say so myself. Other option would just be bishop e7, which is totally playable. This is a little ambitious. But really compelling, I think. We'll check c3, queen b2, queen f6. On rook e8. I mean, nothing wrong, like I said, nothing wrong with just this. Okay. We're gonna go for this. We're gonna go for it. Let's be a little crazy. Okay. He's trying to call me out. dc3. Knight c3. d4. Queen f6. Let's go with this. Crazy stuff happening, so I think he wants to take this. Aha. Given the rook. Just given the rook. So if I take it, and then he takes other stuff, maybe not so much what we wanted. I think this is more solid of a choice to just kind of play here. And they play knight d2. I think knight d2, and then I take here. So if they defend the rook, let's say, right? Otherwise, takes. Right, queen takes f6. Thing is, I can only take one of these. I've probably played this pretty poorly, but who knows? It's a wild position. Really fun line. Queen check, let him have the rook. And go for pin, threaten, take c2 with the queen. I don't know exactly what you mean. Rook e8 and then queen b4? Yeah. But then they just take the knight, right? Take the knight and then this is hanging, and so who knows what's happening there. I could. Because if they castle, then 84 is probably pretty pleasant. But wild one. I kind of took a break with chess now that I'm a father, and I just can't say sharp enough to play all your fun lines, so glad I can still enjoy it with your content. Aw. It's really sweet. I'm glad you enjoy it too. Alright, so we should recapture here. Now, I do think that's smart. If you can't defend one, don't defend either. It doesn't matter if 5 things are hanging if I can only take one of them, right? Yeah. Yeah, no need. No need. Let's go with... Should I take... Like, the rook is the most valuable one, but it's kind of out of position a little bit. Okay, h7, d4... Honestly, I kind of want the knight. Am I so crazy? Because if pawn takes d4, actually we'll come back queen b2, and the knight has no moves to defend the rook. Whereas this, I think knight d4, I don't know. They actually a combination? Probably not, but it's not really how I like to play that game. So queen 2, I think queen d4 is a good move, though. Also, eyes this. And then what's the count there? After queen d4, if I take h7, I'm still down 1 pawn. I don't have queen b2 so much because knight d2, and that's actually defended. So queen d4, rook h7. Let's say queen a7. Yeah. I mean, I can also just defend this like a normal person. But I'm not a normal person. And I'm going to gambit it. So queen a7. I'll let it be. Like the Beatles say. And maybe then I'll throw in a d4. Because check here does nothing unless you have a follow-up, right? Your queen is just hit there. This bishop shields everything. There's no check on a4 there. There's no queen takes b7 there. So queen a7, I'll throw in a d4. Takes. And then I'll try and get him on g2. Okay, so they don't want it. It makes sense. It was actually probably a good call. So they play knight d2. Now, I could go here, h3, right? And then maybe like a rook h4. Let's go with a rook g8. Let's go with a rook g8. Well, okay, then rook e1 and queen h5. That seems like what I want to do. So, okay, I would love for you to move, and maybe we can make something happen in this vicinity. But this is a good move. This is a good move. The knight is covering some squares, and the queen is covering some squares, so I can't get him on g2 just yet, even though I feel like that's the most vulnerable point. But, oh no, wait, that's not a good move. Ah, that's tough, that's tough. I think... Here, let me give him a take back. Alright, I gave him a take back. Still tough to defend. Knight f3, I mean, I understand, like that seems solid. You defend h2. And also, you don't want your queen tied down here. So rook e1, I was going to step back queen h5 to hit h2. Then if h3, queen takes h3, right? That's why I put the rook here to pin. Let me give him 15 more seconds. Rook here, queen h5, hitting h2. And then if, like, queen f4 to defend it, then I wanted, like, d4 to attack g2. So they play just here, which is like generally useful, but I don't know if generally useful is what you need right now when we could get tactically useful. Let's get a little tactically useful, shall we? Let's look at rook g4. Bear with me. I think this is probably good. But let's look at wait, rook g4. So I'm attacking the queen, right, which needs to stay on the knight. So queen e3, I think, is forced. Then my idea, after queen e3, is to play d4. Oh, this is too good. This is too good. I don't need to trade queens right here. I don't need to trade queens, because also if I dodge the queen trade, then queen e6 and something comes, right? d4. Give the queen. Rook takes g2. We just opened the bishop. Rook takes g2, and rook takes h2 will be mate. So here white loses, and you can't come down with checks because my queen is still guarding these checks. Because I have rook takes g2 check. Oh, that's too nice. And with the bishop's support here, everybody comes in. Wow, good game, good game. Thanks for letting me put that on the board. Nice little queen sacrifice there. Nice little queen sacrifice there. And the silly William Gambit to close that one off. Nice, nice, nice. Do I have stream delay on? No. Is the stream delayed? Alright. The game started from this position. Let me clarify like how we got here. Clarify how we got here. So if your opponent goes for, you know, like a 4-move checkmate, queen h5 attacking the pawn, bishop here attacking mate, and queen f3, right, again attacking mate, what you can do, and I have a good video on this, shout out to Mr. Matt Bader, who I just played, named after William, that is not me, but f5 takes knight f6, we gambit a couple of these pawns here, and d5, so, you know, you're no longer getting checkmated on f7, or f7 accessed in any way. After bishop to b5 here, you play queen d6 to make sure this pawn structure doesn't get destroyed, and you're looking for long castles. And it's in this position where actually our game began, and I got to play the black side of it, which is much more fun after g takes h7. So white here is grabbing another pawn here, while black's position looks quite nice. So I played bishop to d7 here to try and play knight d4, with the pin being broken, but he didn't allow me to do that. Take 3 captures, and I've already messed up, apparently. It's already recommending queen takes c6, maybe the target here, so the bishop stays, I guess, along here. Bishop takes c6, d4 was a very good move, because or else I'm probably doing that and having a lot of fun targets. So making that trade here, I've already blundered, and white actually is better. I've lost my advantage. And so a really nice start to the game on his part here. Played d4, so putting 2 pawns in the way, jamming my bishop in. Knight d2, shielding the king. I castle here, and bishop to g5, another nice move. I think, yeah, knight takes d4 is a little dangerous, owing to, like, check, bishop e3 and check, with that knight maybe hanging next turn, or queen takes b2 and the rook getting trapped. So in the game, bishop to g5 hit the f6 knight, which is a pretty vulnerable spot for me. And here, this was dumb for me to go for. I just should have played bishop g7, defended my knight like a normal person. Instead, I went for queen b4 check, so I've blundered actually a number of times at this point. It's +3. I'm abandoning my knight here, and I'm going for queen takes b2. This was a bad idea because he played here c3, which is smart. I take on b2, and the best move was just bishop f6. So bishop f6, if I go for queen a1, I'm losing because of castles, and now I'm not facing a king, I'm facing a rook, which is much worse. And I've still got a lot of guys hanging. So I'm probably going to be down material. I was planning on rook e8, maybe? Yeah, because if takes here, that's not smart. I saw this in the game. I would have checkmate, right? Which is what made this line so appealing. The knight is pinned. But if just castle's out the way, then yeah, I can't take both of these. I gotta dodge it. But oh, then there's queen f5 check. That can be a problem. So here, yeah, somehow not fun at all. Okay. But in the game, he castles first. That's a problem because I'm able to fortify my knight a little bit. So now when you take it and take again, it was more dangerous when there was a bishop there that could take even more stuff. Now there's just a queen. And I grab the knight here, which is correct. And so here I'm a little bit better as a result of just kind of like that one little mishap by white, who had done everything else correct. So kind of unlucky. But yeah, otherwise queen takes a1. I think knight takes d4 here. And, you know, white actually has a lot of compensation threatening knight takes c6 and such. So in the game, I grab e2. Queen takes d4 played. So it's a little bit better for black here, because I'm down a pawn, but you can see here, like, my rooks have total free range here. There's no pawns in the way of my rooks. They have total free reign to go after this king. So that's kind of a really sticky situation for white, who also lacks development themselves. For example, if they went fishing on a7, what I was probably going to do, honestly, is just play d4. Just open this up because I can. This generates nothing, I want to say. Like, what do you do here? You just have to move your queen again. And so if cd4, like now, okay, target this. I mean, I assume there's a number of points. Okay, there's checkmate in 8 after rook g7. Not rook g8, because then check, you'll lose the rook there. But rook g7. Okay, f3. Queen takes g2 I have, so g3 here. Okay, you just get checkmated, actually, right away. So, not fun. Knight to d2 played instead, so keeping this blocked with the queen in front of that pawn. Rook to g8 blunder. What was the move here? Rook fe1. And if I go queen h5, what's wrong? Oh, rook fe1 and knight f1. That was a nice... So use that square for your knight. That's actually a smart little defensive idea. This can actually be a very useful defensive idea, because when the knight comes to f3 to defend h2, I mean, as is more common, but it can get taken, say, by that move. It can get taken, it can get attacked, but if you can store it on f1, sometimes you have, like, a defender on h2 that's just, like, totally inaccessible to remove, and that's very helpful. And, like, it's not like you can play h3 in some cases, right? This is just pinned. So that's actually a nice little defensive idea. And then I guess if I switch gears to hit here, then the knight can also switch gears to shield that one. So smart little idea. In the game, rook b1, which you can't really blame him for, and rook to g4, which you can blame me for. So the best idea was queen h5, but I saw my queen set coming. So, because like here, I could take it, so that seems good. The best move here was just to hit me back. It's just to hit me back. And I really don't have anything. I can't get out of the way of this because my rook is hanging, so we're just actually having to trade queens a little bit. Not really what you want if you're black. In the game, though, queen e3, which makes the most sense, just to, move your queen, defend the knight, try to trade queens. But now here I have d4. Finally, this pawn is no longer blocked. The bishop is free. It has been jammed in, like, the whole game. Queen takes e2. Okay, I mean, there's nothing else to do here. You're losing your queen otherwise. But, yeah, I had this checkmate, and it lets me put it on the board. So really nice game here out of the silly William Gambit. Well, I don't know if it was that nice, because we traded a couple mistakes, but it was nice in the end. I had dreams the whole game of this bishop being open. Finally, we managed to get it open, but honestly, probably better played by my opponent, who started from a pretty tough position, than by me. GG. Thank you, Mr. Matt Bader. Okay, who's here? Who's here? Who wants to play? That mate was hot. Appreciate it. So is the temperature right now. Comment your username if you're subscribed. I see a few people in the chat. How do I play against the Alapin Gambit's Refutation? Awesome. I'll do that. You want to see how I play against the Alapin's Gambit's Refutation? Good luck, mute stream. I don't believe in refutations to Gambits. So knight to h6 is the refutation of the Alapin Gambit. I'll talk about why this move, like it's so unintuitive, but I'll talk about why this move is good soon. C5, I don't know. If I take this one, check. G3, queen e4, bishop g2 could be good, but what if you take this one? If I play an ac3 here, cd4, bishop d4. Let's get to hit again. I don't want to trade queens. Really having to come up with this over the board. Coming up with this over the board. What about g3? What about queen f2? Alright, we're just gonna have to throw something out there. Probably this is objectively the best move, but it's not what I want to do. Let's go with f takes e4. Wow, he was prepped. Okay. I wanted to play a move that wasn't in preparation. Now if I move this bishop, let's take... So I probably should go here, or else this trade gets annoying. Let's play d5. Yeah, I'll talk a lot about this line and even how we got here after an analysis mode. The Alapin is refuted? No. False. Well, this is the game right here that determines whether or not the Alapin Gambit is refuted. You'll find out after this, but not against the power of my Gambit glasses. Not against the power of my Gambit glasses. Alright, well, I'm no longer down a pawn. Monkey Man seemed to be well prepped in this. Yeah, the thing on knight h6 is it can jump in knight f5 and hit here and here. It's so rare. It's so rare, to be clear. Like, this move is played, I think, less than 1% of the time. Even now that there's, like, been... Alapin Gambit has gained popularity after my initial videos on it. And so, then it's also gained popularity about what the absolute best move against it is. It's still very rare. So, still a good time to get in on the Alapin Gambit. Very effective stuff. This is typically not what we get. I think knight g4, I was surprised by it. I think, right, because they're delaying pawn takes f3, which gives us our nice development and attack that comes from that, which is interesting. I think the c takes d4 is needed, because or else I just jump past it, and now this pawn is just not where it wants to be. cd4, bishop d4, let's say, and knight c6. Okay, but let's talk more about analysis after. So it takes d5, just recapture on d5. Oh, wait, it was a bit of a... Oh, there's queen e7. Alright. Analysis later. Analysis later. Let's... Do we have check? Bishop d7, d6? No. Thing is, any trade here gets annoying, because there could be bishop g5 against here. So any trade that does can be bothersome for sure. So let's just, like, be like, no more trades. You've missed your window. And maybe I'll even play d6 for good measure. No more trades on e3. So if castles... Do I play d6? Probably not. I think bishop comes to f6. It's b2. Opens this up for the rook. Yeah, so let's hang off on that for a minute. Do I play h3 yet? Also probably not. Let's just do something normal because we're low on time. It is 3 plus 2. So yeah, we're going to get out the way over here. We're going to get out the way. Bishop comes to f6. So h3, there's an 85. Not the end of the world for them. But then they take c3, right? They can take c3. So what am I going to do about this? I think I have to stop this. Okay, we're not down a pawn, so I can actually not really allowed to wear the gambit glasses per my rule. Per my own rules. Oh, but they go for that anyway. For the fate of the Alapin Gambit. D6. Coordinate here. Right, so we had stopped that, right? So queen takes c3 was okay. And we lost control of that square. We're just gonna come to e1, f1. Well, seems like a pretty good idea. I probably could have done that better. Bishop comes here. It's not bad. I just kind of predetermined with a little time that that's where my pieces would be going. d6, h5. I'm trying to put pressure there. Take it. I have rook d1, yeah. Do I? Yes. Okay, they can give their queen. Queen takes f7. No, gets nothing, so I have to do this. Don't mate me. I didn't have queen of fate. Now I have queen of fate. Also, not getting mated, maybe? Queen c8 is needed? What a battle. Go. Go. Just one check, right? It's just the one check. GG. GG, Monkey Man. Okay, let's have a look. Let's talk about this line. First of all, okay. Let's talk about this line. So how did we get here? We got here. It was from position. E4, E6, D4, D5. The French. Oh. What? Sorry. E4, E6, D4, D5. We play Bishop E3, D takes E4, F3. Alright, so this is the Alapin Gambit. I'll get to a couple challenges in a second. F3. And well, first of all, I'll show you, well, actually, last of all, I'll show you guys typically what happens after either knight to f6 or pawn takes f3, which are by far the most common moves. In the game here, knight to h6 was played. Why is knight to h6 a good move? Not obvious at all, but the truth is both of these captures are bad, right? Both these captures are bad, first of all, right? Because bishop takes h6 is queen h4 check, and you pull back queen takes h6. Why is that so effective for black? Well, we've gotten rid of a very important piece, actually the only developed piece. We moved it twice. Queen takes h6 can also jump into like e3, and like I can't defend both d4 and e4 here, so this is not fun at all for white. And we lost control of our dark squares. So that's not fun. F takes e4, queen to h4 check is also not fun. Bishop f2, g3, these are both bad moves, because queen takes e4 attacks here and here. Knight to f5, okay, you're going to have worse problems on this pinned bishop. So not a great situation there for white either. So we can't take it. And also, we didn't get this to happen. So like also if knight c3, so to put more pressure here and then trying to, you know, give ourselves that development that typically happens, they don't need to take it. They can just jump in knight f5. So the knight takes a very convoluted route to the f5 square. Not obvious that the knight here needs to jump to f5. I mean, you would just develop it to f6. But it jumps there, and also not knight e7, because that would block the queen, right? So there's no way you would find this move over the board. It has to be prepped specifically against the Alapin Gambit. And, you know, it's still, even then, not a common move. Let me tell you. It's actually not even here. It rounds to 0% of the time. 66 out of 15,044. So that is 0.4% of the time. 0.4% of the time. Not a high frequency, but it is the best move. So, because if knight c3, knight to f5 hits this bishop, and also causes some other annoyances on both these squares, with c5 being played potentially. So here, like e3 can be brutal, for example, right? If white doesn't know what they're doing. So queen d2 is a nice move to play against it, because it kind of fortifies this bishop a little bit. And c5, which is also, again, the best move in this position. And is the first time this position has even been reached before. Is that true? No, there's been one other game. Okay. Oh, there's one other game in this position. So c5, this one hasn't been added to the database yet. Also a very nice move, because if black just, I don't know, just does something here, now I'll play knight c3, and now knight f5, I will just take this with a really nice center with this well supported. Otherwise, okay, pawn takes f3 happens, knight takes f3, and I'll get to why it's nice for white to have this kind of really pleasant development and how they can attack from there. But c5 is a nice little strike here, because now if I kind of ignore this, I think cd4 happens, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I don't want to spend two moves trading queens like that. And bishop takes d4, they can jump in either knight c6. Knight c6, I can pin it. But the knight to f5 is something I can't really do anything about. Hitting the bishop here and forcing probably a queen trade on d2. So that's actually really annoying. In the game, I go for f takes e4, and he also was very, very well prepared. Blitzes out knight to g4 very quickly. Yeah, my idea was cd4 here. Okay, at minimum, like, I wouldn't be down a pawn in this line. And if you go for this is kind of what I wanted them to go for this pawn, because bishop on g2, my queen on d2 now defends both of these bishops. And so here, this looks pretty nice for white. Like I wanted, like, I'm still down a pawn here, but I have some nice compensation that I would like to play like this with. And I avoid kind of the dangerous tricks. So f takes e4, yes. Best to probably play cd4 here. And black, if they do everything right, still is a little bit better in this endgame. But we're already way past any theory here. Even knight to g4, I mean, this was a really remarkable amount of prep that nobody on the internet has ever had before, because this game, we're in brand new territory. So knight to g4, but I try this move d5. I'm just like, okay, all these trades are happening, like knight takes e3 is going to happen, cd4, like, let's say I played like knight f3 here, and then this trade happens, and then cd4 happens, and like I can't really go knight takes d4 because the bishop jumps to c5. Like, none of this ever happens in the Alapin Gambit. But without my dark square bishop here, I could have some problems. So it's just like, no, I don't want these trades to happen. So I'm going to try playing this move d5. It actually doesn't work, though, because pawn takes d5, we both missed it, but he immediately plays bishop to e7. You see just 1 second coming off the clock. We both missed that there's actually queen to e7 here, which just flips the whole evaluation of this position on its head. Because, yeah, I'm losing this bishop. I have to play king e2, which is terrible. Yeah, my king didn't get out of the center here. So queen to e7 is brutal. For that reason, d5, yeah, probably not the best move. Probably not the best move. And the engine wanted me to play c3 to try to defend this pawn. Okay, d5, take. I got away with one, because bishop e7 played, and now after bishop f4, no more trades happening here, and the engine evaluates this at equality. Because pawn count is even, we're both going to castle our king, and that's that. Engine wanted me to go for short castles. I was like, no, let's go for long castles. Okay, rook to e8 in the game. Engine wanted this check, and then check, which is annoying. You can't castle out a check, so if you keep it all with checks, it can get annoying. Here, bishop f6. Oh, this is tricky, though, because you draw the bishop to e2. Do you know why? It's to block, like, the queen's control of f2. So that castles there's knight f2 here. So it stops me from castling. That's actually the trick. That's actually the trick. So you go here, so that you can go here check, so that you can draw a piece here, so that now you move the bishop away, and now there's knight to f2 without the queen controlling, because it'll fork or trap my rook. So that's actually, like, tough stuff, okay. Rook to e8, can't blame him for that. Castles bishop to f6, so we get kind of just like a normal-ish position with even pawns. Opposite side castles king, let's see what happened from here. Knight to h3, because, yeah, there's a threat of take c3, and I don't want to have to go pawn takes c3. Queen a5 is really bothersome there, attacking lots of stuff. Queen takes c3 would allow knight to f2 in that fork, if my queen no longer defends, right? Also why I'm not putting anything here. So knight to h3, not where I really wanted to develop the knight, but okay, I have to defend f2. In the game, they took on c3 anyway. Probably not the best, because queen takes c3, and, you know, there's no access to these squares. In the game, knight just has to come back to f6. We develop our bishop to defend this pawn. Knight comes into e4, not a bad spot. Queen f3, knight d7, and I bring my rooks into the game. Okay, this wasn't great, but I had no time. I mean, I mentioned during the game this wasn't great. Yeah, d6 is much better. Now let's say the same thing happens. Now we can jump in, and the bishop is open, not blocked by the pawn. Takes g5. The knight was attacking there as well. Now bishop takes g5, put pressure with the pin. Knight, yeah, with the pawn behind it, like that can be really brutal up in file. The bishops here are operating quite well with my king being untouched. In the game, like I just put my pieces here, so it's back to even. Take h3, take h3. Okay, I mean, not a lot of time here. This was a blunder. I'm a little bit better here, but this was a blunder because of this pin. But somehow I didn't capitalize correctly. I went for that, which wasn't it. I needed just to go here, and now I'm winning this knight. d8, and take f7. Queen takes, you lose it. Knight takes, you lose that. Okay, I didn't see that. Here, here, here. I'm up like a pawn here. A wild one. Queen f7 defending my rook, right? Neither of us blundered back rank checkmate. Queen f8 stuff here. So okay, I play a3 to not get mated. I think you can grab this, and then maybe try and go with your own pawn while I try to go with this pawn, and whatever happens, happens. In the game c4, trying to go c3 and blow it open, I play rook f3 against that. Queen c8, yeah, probably, again, better to take it. I take here, we trade rooks. You're just jammed in here, and then I have this pawn when you don't have any great counterplay. Like, you're safe. I'm not going to get you. You're not going to get your king, but I do have an extra pawn in this position that I made good use of. GG, wild battle. Wild battle in this line of the Alapin Gambit. So knight to h6, very rare stuff. Yeah, my recommendation is just queen d2. I wish I could tell you what people play against it, but, you know, this is so rare. But, yeah, in general, like, I think if knight to f5 happens... yeah, I mean, I was just going to go kind of like knight c3, but takes, okay, check. You can give the pawn like this is fine. Keeping the bishop on the board is nicer than knight c3. I had a game that went after queen d2. It went e takes f3, knight takes f3. This was actually in a chess boxing match I had, and I played your knight c3. They took. In here, this was fine. I got a lot of counterplay here playing for d5. So this is a nice compensation for the pawn. If black just goes with either knight to f6 or the pawn takes f3, it's going to be the same position, because here we play bishop d3, drive the knight back to f6 usually. This is a losing move, because they'll lose a piece here. But drives the knight back to f6, and what we do from here is, against that jammed in bishop, right, I've talked about this on my channel a few times, is we bring the queen around to h4. So like knight d7, queen comes to h4, and we're trying to checkmate them on h7. The knight is completely frozen, and we're just going to bring in like a lot of attackers against that knight, trying to go bishop takes, trying to go rook takes, to try and checkmate them on h7. If they play h6, okay, we just sacrifice and checkmate them. And if they play g6, okay, we can continue with the attack here, doubling our rooks and such, or even just taking here and then taking on either e7 or f6. We would be a piece ahead either way. So this is a really fun attack if they just kind of accept the Alapin Gambit, as, you know, almost everyone does. E takes f3 and knight to f6, combining for 92% of the games here. Literally 92% of the games. And it should be pretty much the same position either way. So this is what I recommend against the French. Bishop e3, and after d4 play f3, and then you'll most likely get knight takes f3. If you ever face knight to h6, the refutation, just play queen d2, and probably with knight c3, you will encourage e takes f3 at some point. You'll recapture on f3 and continue the game. GG. GG. Let's get to more challenges. Alright, I see a comment from Danny Gel. I refer to myself in the third person, do I? Good luck, mute stream. Sometimes I think sometimes I do that. Oh, my turn. Good luck. E45. Let's get a Goring Gambit. Let's get a Goring Gambit on the board. Just watching my London Crusher video, nice. You're at win this game $2. Still waiting for it. I think I won that game. The Fly Swat Gambit, yeah. exterminator to come here. Okay. Okay. Goring Gambit on the board. And this is why I like it so much better than the Danish Gambit. Because the Danish Gambit would be with the knights back here. But the Goring Gambit... Okay, this is all the best moves against it. Go ahead. Yeah, if you guys want to play, make sure you write your Lichess username in the chat, and if you're subscribed on YouTube and following on Twitch. Bishop d6 here. Takes, right? You block this? Otherwise, yeah, you gotta be careful if you're black. They're still trying to stay up a pawn. Bishop g4 is a very advanced move, trying to, like, this game in last, they're trying to hold this pawn on d4, like not give d takes c3, try to stay up the pawn, but not actually, like, trade it, giving us that development. So, you know, it's a kind of a tough balancing act to follow. Bishop g4 does a good job of it, pinning here, so loosening our control over d4. Bishop d7 is playable. I was probably just going to go rook e1. Bishop d6, we take it, they grab f3. Okay, I'm going to take back with the queen. And knight g5, right? Makes sense. If they play knight e5 right away, I think I was going to go with queen a4 check. Undoing the pin, so you probably want to attack the queen, and then I would play, like, queen d4, but then the trade happens. I would be up a pawn there, actually. It would be the opposite of me gambiting. So weird sort of position. If I play bishop to b5, what's going on? c6, like my queen is hit, right? So dc6. Oh, but that's check. That's check. So no games. All right, queen comes to e2. I'm not sure where else she would go. Yeah, bishop b5, c6, and then I would just have these both under attack, which is not good. Although, maybe I had something, because queen e2 there. If you played cb5, I had cd4. So, could have been playable. But, again, kind of a sticky situation for black, because you can't just play knight f6, because cd4 will win your knight. And you kind of like castling a little bit. Knight e7 then. cd4. I'm actually up a pawn at that exact instant. Knight g6. And I can play knight c3, maybe make it a little hard for you to get that pawn back. The other thing about knight e7 is maybe bishop b5, but c6 take. Well, bishop b5, c6 take. Probably just pawn takes. It's actually well defended now that you got the knight there, so maybe I missed my window. Alright, let's just go cd4. I could play c4 and try to win that pawn whole. For example, let's say castles. Well, I have c5, actually. And then but the thing is they can take d3, queen d3. And then maybe play c5 themselves. Okay, first of all, this isn't a gambit anymore. No more gambit glasses for me. c4 to defend this, and then try to take d4. Or what do we think about it? I think the problem is take. Because then if they castle, okay, take d4, and I'm very happy. If cd4 right now, knight g6. And knight c3, castles. And rook d1. I mean, that's kind of like the easiest way to play. Oh, but the other thing that I like about this, actually, no, I should do this, is... Oh, right, because they go for that. Okay. Yeah, wait, I don't know why I wasn't even, like, talking about that. Obviously, they were going to take it. Okay, knight takes d5. Maybe they should have played knight takes d5. Is that possible? Because it... Oh, no, because I was going to go queen e4 check, maybe, and try to take that. Alright, well, we lost our best piece. It got traded off. But maybe we can make it hard for them to take d5. Maybe it's harder than you think. Okay. Yeah, bishop to b4. It was playable, but they didn't go for it. What do they want? I guess just here. Nothing obvious to do. Let's just jump in rook e1. Queen h4, I think we'll just go g3 is fine. G3 is fine. I don't... Because that's the distance I want to be from that knight. Now, like... I think in general it can be a weakening move, but here not. think it shields against the bishop. There's no light square bishop that can take advantage of the light squares. It shields against kind of what all these pieces wanted to do. And now if I want an 84 and taking it, I can. It's not super necessary. H4, H5 could be interesting. I think H4 is a good move. It's kind of pushing it a little bit. But yeah, I wanted the... Oh, is their queen trapped? That's really unlucky for them. Their queen is trapped. Oh my goodness. They can trade on E1, it's check, but I just take and it doesn't change anything. Wow. Because here I was talking about H4, take. The sacrifice isn't going to work. It's not going to work. Otherwise, yeah, if they play H6 to stop it, then H5 can get kind of annoying, driving the knight away further. But here, okay, it's just very unlucky for black. They have no squares for their queen. Yeah, it wasn't a useless extra pawn. It was pretty useful. GG. GG. You can have a look at that one briefly. Oh no, Philly's 5, and that's nothing tonight. Not good. E4, E5, so the Goring Gambit. We are big fans of this one on my channel, because if D4, this is the Danish Gambit, and D5 is just a nice way out. Imagine the same thing, takes, knight F6, but now with the knights here, big difference. The bishop can capture on C6, and then after castles here, white has a lot of nice counterplay. Instead, we play knight F3 first, and then do the same thing. Now, okay, if you want to take everything, we still get all the fun stuff with the Danish. And if you want to play D5, you don't have that option, because takes hits the knight, and then it's too many tempi with the rook hitting quickly. In the game, D5, bishop to D3 defends this well. Take, and I have take C6 if need be. Again, your king is far from castling, and I've opened the center for my rooks to jump to. Bishop G4, really nice advanced move here. Defending D4 indirectly and not giving D takes C3, which is the capture that can, okay, after E takes D5 here and A takes C3, generate a lot of counterplay for white. Bishop G4 castles, bishop D6. Yeah, best is bishop E7, although not the most common move. But, because, yeah, knight F6 I think gives me E5, which is nice center for white. Otherwise, bishop E7, you can delay that a little bit here if you, like, you know, this is a bunch of really pro-gamer moves here. Bishop G4, bishop E7. You really have to be prepped in this specifically to do it, rather than just, like, developing your pieces like normal or taking any of the pawns in front of you, all of which are kind of mistakes. You guys should check out the original Goring Gambit video for the full repertoire on how to do this and why this is such an effective way, the most effective way, in my opinion, to play against all king's pawn openings. Bishop to D6 played in the game, E takes D5, so we grab that. And it's a tempo on the knight, which doesn't really happen in Danish gambits, but that is blocked here. Bishop takes F3, I think it was a nice choice here. Otherwise, the knight kind of really has to go to some sort of passive square, and queen A4 check, and I'll take that pawn very cleanly and be up a pawn. So bishop takes F3, queen takes F3, knight to E5, nice way to jump in, hitting here and here. Bishop B5 not on the table, I think C6. I mean, I was looking at this. Yeah, queen E2, it was not a bad move. Okay, queen E2 and bishop B5 are 1A, 1B, right next to each other. Check here, queen E2. So that if you take here, I am winning back my piece, and then also the B5 pawn is hanging, so it's an interesting line. In the game, I just go queen E2. Okay, we're pinning here, knight D7, nice move. CD4, which is okay. Okay, best was... Oh, just bishop C2, keeping that nice bishop on the board. And now, okay, yeah, if I'm not going up a pawn, it's okay. I get my knight takes C3 capture, and I have some nice development here with that light square bishop operating pretty well, pointing towards that king, and we can generate stuff from there. In the game, CD4, okay, it was a little... Okay, my advantage is minimal here. Specifically, if they get this pawn and I don't have my light square bishop, then my advantage is absolutely nothing. And it shouldn't be too difficult for black. So, but they play knight G6 here, and I think we handled this part pretty well. Because rook to E1 is just like a nice normal developing move. Now after queen H4, right, this looks probably better than it is. But after G3, queen F6, yeah, very slowly, like nothing was so wrong here. Like the engine wanted probably to stay on one of these light squares a little bit. Queen G4 to poke around. So like rook E8 can come. My bishop doesn't have any great squares, probably just needs to develop to D2. But queen F6, I do have this very nice move, H4. It's actually a very, very nice move. Supporting bishop to G5, which can trap the queen, and otherwise, yeah, it's actually tough, because H6, okay, I can play H5, and I drive this knight kind of further away. Now bishop to D2, okay, this is just like a little bit better than the other lines here. I'll stack my rooks and have some fun here. I can come to F3, I can take this bishop if I want, maybe I pressure C7. And the pawn is, like I said, not easy to get back. And yeah, G3 was not a weakening move, because you couldn't take advantage of these light squares. The pieces were not well positioned to do that, and so I was actually happy to play this move, G3. Okay, but tough break for black here. They played very, very well, but after rook to e8, suddenly the queen is just trapped, which is quite unfortunate. All right, let's go to the next challenge. Okay, I have a horde chess challenge, which I don't really play here. I see. A challenge from Laya Lichter, who wrote their name in chat. I'll accept. Good luck. Von Popiel, yet again. Whenever they have a diagonal piece on f6, you push the side pawn. The diagonal piece on f6. Like I played h4 there. I would say the biggest benefit to me playing h4 there was me trying to play h5, hitting the knight on g6. I'd say if any rule, it would be that. But it's, I mean, nothing's 110%, but h4, h5 can be very annoying to knights that were here. And so that was the primary reason. My opponent with some good prep against the Von Popiel Gambit, though. We gotta turn our focus to this, because this is the #1 engine line that they are playing. Again, trying to delay pawn takes f3. This is not something people typically do. Like, if they take a pawn and then you go here, they'll take the other pawn, or else they'll lose this extra pawn more often than not. But not playing pawn takes f3 and giving me that recapture can be the way to go. And so what they're trying to do here is defend this like crazy. So the knight defends, the knight defends, the knight defends, right? So to keep that on the table. So we're going to keep hitting it. Now we induce pawn takes f3. We're going to go with knight takes. So it's a little different than most Von Popiels. Most Von Popiels are with queen takes, hitting the bishop and the pawn. That's not what's happening here. We're not playing queen takes because there's no bishop to attack. So playing knight takes, and we're actually offering them a second pawn. This is a fun line because this is the top engine line. So I love facing that. e6 played here, so now we're going to castle long. Queen e2 supported a long castle. And you might say it jammed in the bishop, but what that bishop can do is if knight takes g4, well, okay, not now because they've opened up the pin. e6, c6 was actually very smart. If they play bishop to b4, it looks like the best move. We have a very nice move, which is knight to d5, which is absolutely filthy. Both of these are pinned, and it attacks this. Anyway, c6. I think if we do nothing here, we're in danger of them playing bishop e7 and never having d5 again. So this is my chance to play d5. Because that pawn is pinned right now. And as soon as they break that pin, bishop to e7 breaks a couple pins. But if they played bishop to e7 last turn, then I was either going to look for like h4, h5, trying to trap the bishop. h4, okay, they need to move that. And then there's like a lot of crazy things that can happen potentially. But c6 played, and we're just going to break right through with d5. This position, even though it's all the engine moves, is still covered in the original Von Popiel Gambit video. I cover all the top engine lines in all my Gambit lines. So this also, Von Popiel, as I said before, you can play it literally every time as white. Here, takes, knight c3, knight to f6, bishop g5, right? Like, you can get that position like literally every game as white. No reason you couldn't. But if you love e4, as I do, you like facing other stuff, then you can still get it against Scandies. Here we've already transposed, as if d4, d5, e4 was played against Scandinavians. Okay, let's talk about this. So c6 was a very good move against d5, but I punched in d5 real quick. Now let's take back with either the rook or the knight. Probably the knight. We should be a bit careful, because rook c8, and they've got a couple pieces cooking over here. So what's going on? What's going on right there? Rook c8. Maybe I go knight d4? Gambit glasses guide me. Rook d5, bishop e7. If I play h4 right now, h6, h5, hg5, hg6. Rook takes h1, g takes f7, king e7. Okay, I think I'm making too big of a deal out of this. I think I can just play c3. I mean, my other thought, well, because queen a5, I was thinking queen b5 even, as much as I don't want to trade. Oh, c8. Because I think, okay, bishop e7 played. The reason I wasn't so scared of this one, I think, because if I go take, queen b5, castles, take. Okay, let's take this. We gotta do this right. Gotta do this exactly right. Knight takes is impossible right now, because take still lose the queen. Bishop takes would then be fours. If they want pawn takes, then I will take... Yeah, I was going to take on e7. I'll talk about that later. So, queen b5 I can't do, because my knight is hanging. So we'll take this one. And then I wanted to go here. Is that crazy? Maybe g5 first. Or g7 first. Okay, if they take this, take here. If they castle, go for this, but then I have an e5, I think. Hitting this. I don't want to let them escape. I can't let them escape. So... Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, wait, well played by them. Oh. Wait, well played by them. They're actually just up a pawn. I didn't see that. They're actually just up a pawn here. Oh, wait. They want to draw? No. If first c5, I'll take it. Oh! That was 3? Okay. I was going to take it. Wait. Okay. Very well played. Good game. Good game, good game. The engine... Evaluate this to a draw? No. It was winning for black. Okay. Something went wrong here. Something went wrong. I see a lot of comments about what it could be. Let's have a look here. So, very, very well played by my opponent. Because this was good preparation. This was great, great, great preparation. Knight to d7 here. What happens typically is they'll play pawn takes f3, and after queen takes f3, we attack here, and that is problems for them. But knight d7, to defend the knight, to defend the pawn, is a good idea, not giving us pawn takes f3 and still staying up this pawn. We gotta go g4 to make it happen. To now we're threatening, okay, this is like f takes e4, this is just a well-defended pawn, great center, and black is not up a pawn with e5 potentially coming to win. So, smart to now take f3, knight takes f3. The top engine line here is first c6, which is a very difficult move, but first c6 to not open the pin. And now after castles, oh, this would transpose to the game. Okay, so he continues to play the top engine line because e6, the engine wanted me to first play d5. Oh, it had a very slight preference for this, but queen e7 and maybe they can run away here, it's saying. Okay, in the game I have no regrets about castles. Okay, c6 played. And now we strike here with d5, which is actually not the best. Engine wants h4, or knight e5, it's saying. Knight e5 makes some sense, because it pressures this bishop. Takes with the queen hanging and the knight hanging, and the knight can't move. So you'll lose something. Like bishop b4, some crazy stuff happening here. But basically what white's trying to do, I think, if just bishop e7 is h4, which now threatens to trap the bishop, right? And you can't, like, I've talked about this idea on my channel a couple other times, but you can't play h6 to create that square and immediately tuck your bishop in on h7, in which case you would be fine. But because I have the pressure on g6, and now I play h4, as soon as you move that pawn, now I take it. No h takes g6, which would be solid, but now f takes g6, and then this pawn just gets toasted. So, in the game here, this didn't happen. I go for d5, which is actually not as good as I thought. cd5 knight d5. Yeah, I was scared of rook c8. Which I now open something up onto my king, and I just have to deal with it. And here, they're okay. In the game, bishop e7. And so but there also should be okay here, because d5 was not the best. They played a lot of good moves. I take, right? So they didn't go knight takes, because knight takes f6, check wins the queen. Bishop takes f6, take queen f6, which was a slight error. Pawn f6 would have been better. Queen f6 gave me, I was thinking about this, was rook d7. This sacrifice, but I thought these pieces weren't doing great, and that's why this only evaluates to a draw, and it could have evaluated to more. But you gotta be careful, because you go here, I think check, yeah, this will kill you, because king f8 and you'll get forked, for example. So, you gotta be very careful. King d6 is the only move that draws. That's crazy. Everything else loses, because again, you'll get, like, mated or forked. Okay, tricky stuff here. I didn't go for it. I went with queen b5. Now, the best line for black was actually just castles, because you can just make this trade and you're fine. You just make that trade and you're totally fine, with your king totally safe over here. So I didn't keep it in the center. Rook d8 and 85. Okay, I missed this. I thought they'd have to go queen e7 and keep defending here. I was like, oh yeah, in 85, it's defended. But of course it's not. It's just queen takes e5. Engine liked check first, and now takes... Oh, you know why? Because if my king's on b1 and not c1 in this position that we had in the game, they can go rook takes d7, leaving the queen hanging because this is mate, because I don't have any development. I don't have the bishop out to control d1. Whereas in the game, we had that exact position. You took on e5 directly, rook takes d7. Here, rook takes d7. Okay, I would just win the queen without getting checkmated. So first you include the check and then take it. Drag my king to b1. That is tricky stuff. That's tricky stuff. So here, so I wasn't completely losing, but I was just down a pawn for absolutely nothing. And even worse, because this pawn structure is really, really nice for black. So it's minus 1.7 here, or minus 2.2 here, so, or more, 2.4. But, okay, this should be a winning endgame for black. They're up a pawn and more. What happened here? I mean, yeah, b4 you don't have to do, because b4 you're making this weak, and you're also just by virtue of the pawn trades, like, yes, this would make sense if there were queens on the board and you were trying to attack my king, but by virtue of the pawn trades, you're actually giving me a pass pawn, so better to just, like, attack stuff, focus on your own pass pawns. That would be the best to do, rather than playing where you have a minority of pawns. You know, you're not going to just, like, win pawns here. So, yeah, I was saying during the game that I would have gone for bishop takes a4 here. Oh, there's actually b4, which is actually a nice move to create some sort of imbalance in the position and, like, maybe go with my pawns, and it could be an interesting battle from here, although it's still quite good for black. Okay, otherwise I would just be trading off these guys. In the game, we repeat these moves. Yes, best is... Oh, there's this nice move a3, undermining here. c4, ab2, and going to promote. And if otherwise take here, and this is very good for black. So a3 is a very nice move. But otherwise, yeah, just checked here. And, I don't know. Yeah, rook c4, I mean, still a good idea. Defends this, hits that. But okay, I understand we were both low on time, and we just repeated some moves here. So I was probably pretty fortunate to get away with one there, although, you know, obviously me, I don't like draws. No, would have kept fighting and seen what happens. Okay, GG, and a nice way to play against my Von Popular Gambit. I think next time we face this, here's what we're going to do next time. First of all, if e6 first... Okay, this is fine, castles, because it just transposes to c6 first. So the best line here is knight e5. Yeah, knight e5, I like this. And if bishop e7, now h4. Threatening to trap that bishop, and then otherwise h6 comes, then we take it, f takes g6, forcing f takes g6, and leaving those weaknesses here. The best move here for black being bishop b4, so that if h4, we'll have some counterplay. Take in here. Have h5, I guess, here, and then they'll get me. They'll get me when they take c3. So, best move is to play literally knight to b1. It's crazy. And now, again, it's tough because you can't take this knight that's causing you problems. You can't play h6 that's also causing you problems because this is, you know, you would lose all that if you're black. You don't want to do that. So queen c7, let's say, or queen e7, I don't know, h4, threatening to trap it. And they need to play h6, so they need to, like, knight e5, it's inevitable because they can't take this knight so long as this is a problem, right? But with queen e7, they at least prepare for f takes g6, and so it's not as bad as it would be otherwise. So this is, black has played every single one of the best moves for 14 moves. Bishop d2 is actually better, just to get the knight into the game here. It takes, I think, knight takes d2. Okay. And yeah, white should have some compensation attacking these pawns and some on and some open lines. These are some weak pawns. But it is minus 0.2 if you ask Stockfish here on move 15. If they did everything right against the Von Popiel Gambit. Alright, alright. I have one more challenge. I found your channel because of Leechess. Shout out to Leechess. Yeah, indeed. Alright, Dr. Paradox Chess. I'd be so much better if I analyzed games like this. Well, you have two options. You can watch me analyze games like that, because that's what I do. And hopefully I try to help y'all. Or you can analyze games like that. And, let's play c3 here. Have I played? No, let's play an Alapin. Let's play an Abstinence Gambit. Love from Uganda. Appreciate it. Shout out to GM Smurfette, Bjorn, Leon with the follows on Twitch, Julio, Lisa, Regina, Ramat, Matt Bader with the support on YouTube. Okay, oh, we got an Abstinence Gambit accepted. I don't know if I've ever had this. Almost never do they take this pawn, and the pawn otherwise just supports like a recapture on e5. But Gambit Glass is on. Took my f4 pawn, and we played d4. Shout out to Highly Cruciferous, and I'll link the study below that he's made. Very, very good study on this nice line against the Sicilian. Calls it the Abstinence Gambit. So d4, we can take a big center, hitting the knight. Knight comes back to d5 here. And I believe what we want to do is just run this knight completely over. Otherwise, like, if I just kind of played knight f3, then I think they just take it. And then it just hangs out here, and it's probably fine. But we're not going to let that happen. dc5, e6, I think they were also more or less okay. We're just going to play your c4. Knight's going to move back again, and I think we keep it rolling. If e6, then d6 now. And that's maybe too much chasing for that poor knight. And also, I don't know how you're getting your bishop out. So d6 makes more sense. But now, what if I put a pawn right there? F takes e6, bishop to d3. So I'm setting up for maybe a queen h5. I mean, nothing wrong with knight to f3 and maybe just supporting the pawn like normal. I'm sure if I knew the Abstinence Gambit better, there is... It's kind of a shame that I don't know what to do here. But let's say e6 takes bishop d3. g6. The problem I have is that maybe I give the check and the king is not so unsafe right there. Knight to f3, bishop to g4. Alright, you know what we're going to play? Well, I was going to say this. Takes, knight d7. Other option is knight f3 to defend it, bishop g4. Bishop 4, takes. Let's say knight d7. Let's say I play knight to f3. Take, queen d6. Okay. I like this move, bishop f4. Because the other thing is e6 I didn't want to have happen. I didn't want to make it so easy for them to develop. But e6 right now I feel as though... Maybe I lied to myself. I thought I could take it, but now knight takes might hit this. e6, but I'll probably just play knight f3, honestly. I like the bishop on e5. I think their most obvious way to set up was g6 here, and now that's harder. And also I put some pressure on d6. So I think this is interesting. We got our gambit glasses on, having a great time. I could have played knight f3, but then bishop g4, wasn't so sure what to do. I think everything they've done is pretty reasonable. What's up, Ghazi? Play with Sergei Sigolko? I have. I think I'm 1-1 against him. Highly Cruciferous is an underrated resource for fringe gambits, I do have to agree. Oh, Dr. Paradox, thank you so much for the game. We're going full gambit mode indeed. We got the gambit glasses on. We're so ready. So ready. So G6, okay. Totally makes sense. Takes. Oops, takes. Queen e2, Queen e7, they're fine. Now the other idea would be hitting this, right? So let's say knight c3, bishop g7, take, and knight e4. But then they just castle. Gets a little tenuous. Alright, what we're gonna do is this though. Because if bishop g7 right now, I think the problem with that is take, and queen e2 check. And now if you play queen e7 without the bishop on f8, then I will take d6. And if the bishop were on f8, then after queen takes e2, my bishop would be hanging. But otherwise, like, you can imagine the queen's there, and then I take d6. I think here, because otherwise I would just defend this pawn, which is also fine. I think it hangs out annoyingly in their face. But I'm going to go take it. And now, yeah, I think they're realizing check queen e7, bishop takes d6. You can't recapture. I've just drawn the queen into a pin. So knight e4 is an option. And I think it just picks this off. But then I don't really like... It's probably fine. But I don't really like being on that side of things. I like being... I'm the gambit man, not the gambit accepting man. And it seems like I'm making a lot of moves before I'm castled to fish for a pawn, and that's not me. So they play king f8, which makes sense because you don't want to lose that. Right? You don't want to lose that. So that's an achievement. I got them to play king f8, and I stopped their castle. That's big, because my queen can hang out here without a rook coming to e8. Now, if they get a few moves, then they can probably develop and be okay. But what if I play knight e4 right now and don't give them those few moves? So knight e4 could force knight e8. That's probably not what you want if you're black. Knight e4, now bishop takes d6, this is very serious. There's not a rook coming to e8 anymore. Like if they were to castle and then put a rook here, and then they could be dangerous. But now it's a pawn I'm willing to take, because there's no real repercussions if I do. If anything, it just hurts their king. So if they need to decide between these moves. Queen h4 check gets nowhere, I just play g3. So, but it's something you gotta keep an eye on. If you keep your king in the middle, you gotta keep an eye on all this stuff. For example, if g3, if they had like a bishop takes g3 check, right? Takes and then taking the rook. But okay, I have g3 well under control. So d6 hit a number of times, and they had to do another annoying move, knight e8. That is another annoying move. So I'm thinking about long castle at this point. I'm probably leaning towards that. Castle's long. I think it's also something I do want to do right now, and not even delay it. Like with knight f3, which is a categorically useful move. Because queen to a5 check otherwise could have been annoying. Now it's not even on the table. Because knight takes d6, you don't have queen takes a2, because that's checkmate. So knight takes d6, take, bishop takes d6, right? Oh, there's a lot of problems that can come because your king is there. It's on the wrong side of your rook. So we're just long castling to get out of the middle. Short castling made a lot of sense, because also the rook would immediately jump to a useful spot. But it was just very hard to arrange. My bishop was not in a good spot to get moving. So bishop f5 makes a good deal of sense here. And here we just kind of have general compensation for the pawn. Do I play rook e1? I think rook e1 is quite annoying. Could play knight just as normal move like knight f3, but I think this is quite annoying. I think it puts... Well, they can just go trade in knight f6, can't they? So maybe here, let's go with knight g3. Not that I'm so opposed to that trade on e4. But I think this is an annoying counter-strike, and I think, yeah, trade, knight f6, gave them kind of a little bit of breathing room there. I just want to make them have to move it again and keep bothering them. Trades in general are nice for them at this point. So we can stick with that principle too. I don't think Black's position is so bad, but they do need to find some accurate defenses. I also need a not flag. Oh, it's just 5-0. It's just 5-0. Oh, okay. I kind of thought there was increment. That could trap the queen. I was going to say because it gives queen e7 as well if the queen moves, but the queen can't even move anyway. So that's a problem for them. It's just 5-0. No increment. No, I have rook takes d3. It was... Oh, this is hanging. I would have played queen d2. Okay. Let's go with just moving it. It's kind of not... I should have played queen d2 there. Kind of annoying that I have these guys jammed in a bit. 3 doesn't do anything. Need you out and about. Really have no time. Ah! Nice, GG. GG. You got me. Yeah, 5-0. I thought there was increment. Okay. Interesting battle. He defended very, very well. So, yeah, f4 he played here, and he accepts it. He accepts it. So the engine actually does recommend he takes f4 here. Or it does like it for black here, d4 and d5. It's minus 0.3. Otherwise, like, the point of f4 would be, like, you play knight f3, and then f takes e5, like, when d6 comes. But, so he takes it and then proceeds to defend really, really well. So he saves the knight once, and again, and after d5 here, strikes with d6. So to make sure this pawn just doesn't run him completely over with, like, d6 myself, and takes and then checks along here or something, d6 is a good move. Bishop f4 and g6. Okay, engine didn't like it, but I kind of thought this was a pretty reasonable choice. Engine wanted, like, e6, yeah. And maybe to make some trades here and survive and get away. Geez, so the best move for me is just giving this pawn. Or maybe we just take it. Just take it, bring the bishop to d3, and the bishop can operate well in that general direction. Okay. Bishop f4, I mean, it wasn't a mistake, but okay. g6, knight c3 I played. Queen e2 a little bit better. Oh, trying to pin here down the e line. In the game, I just played here. Take, check. So this should be some sort of accomplishment that I made them not castle. Knight to e4, knight to e8. Yeah, the tough thing is, I thought this was better than it was. It's actually only plus 0.1. It's only plus 0.1 because their position is actually, I guess, quite solid. It's hard to find any attacks here, but okay, it's good compensation. Like, their pieces aren't so good. I hit him with knight g3, queen f6, knight to f3. It was a big blunder because, not because of that, but because, so here this position should be nice if I just take it. And then g3, nice move to actually get the bishop out for a change. So that's what I should have done. Didn't occur to me. Because we were very low on time here. Poor time management on my part. Bishop d3 looks like a very nice move because queen d3, there's mate. Otherwise, this is a nice trade. But yeah, as I said, the gap between queen d2 and rook takes d3 is massive. Queen d2 here is nice, defending this, and defending b2. So now my rook just jumps into f1 and in very, very nice style here. This would be good. In the game, I just went rook takes d3. Bishop c2 is apparently a very, very nice move. Kind of forcing something similar to the game. Queen b2 on the table, and so that trade. In the game, I allowed that to happen. And then, okay, I mean, we're just trading blunders here. This wins, that's actually a very nice tactic to win a piece. I didn't do it. Otherwise, okay, queen e1, queen b4, and then I just hang checkmate as we're blitzing out. GG. Good game, well played, Mr. Dr. Paradox Chess. Oh, you're good. You got me. I could have looked at the time control. Very, very nicely done. All right. Do I know if Chuck Debart? I understand Bishop G5 is slightly better than a proper Blackmore-Deemer gambit. What led you to play it? Great question. Von Popiel is kind of my innovation. I mean, obviously there was a person named Von Popiel, but you should check out the original Von Popiel gambit video. I keep telling you guys to check out X video, Y video, these lines, just go to the link tree. It's the first link. You should see that link. There's Linktree W Grafe, my name, and the full Gambit repertoire. This is everything I play. You can make a full Gambit repertoire, but I would start wherever, like, oh, I don't really know what to do against King's Pawn openings. I don't really know what to do against the London or the Caro-Kann. Find that one. Say, I don't know, the London Crusher 9000, or say the Von Popule Gambit, right? Click on that video. And not only do you get the, like, long video here, full breakdown, like a free chessable course of how to play it, but also, you know, the Lichess study, it's all there, of how to play it. Brand new gambits that, you know, I really recommend. And also, it links to the playlist here of me playing in other games and exploring the theory and giving you guys more ideas beyond just the theory right there. So, hard recommend this stuff. You know, just like literally in a vacuum of lines to play. Like, I haven't, like, they're just free. I haven't even made chessable courses. People just ask me to make chessable courses, and it explains why it's better to do it that way than the Blackmar-Diemer Gambit. Same way the Goring Gambit is an improved version of the Danish Gambit, etc., to dodge kind of the best alternatives for black there. People don't get the London Crusher ever. I mean, I think you'll get it pretty much every time against London players, but, you know, not everyone plays London. But yeah, I mean, when I face London players, this is what they do. I play c5, they play e3, I play queen b6. Like this is the line. This is the line that you should get pretty much every time. I do cover, you know, b3, which is not a great move. I have actually another gambit against that in that playlist. It's the NV Gambit, so it's also there. You could check that out. You could check that out. b3 is not a good move, and because there's actually a better gambit against this, which is with d6 and e5. But otherwise, like the London Crusher, where we go here and we invite them to take our rook. This I've gotten a number of times. I've got, like, see here. Let's check out my score. Even though I play against good oppositions, I have 14 games. I have 14 games in this position, with a 71% win rate, 14% draw rate, 14 loss. Yeah, good score here. I like this. I like this stuff. All right. Do I play the Smith-Morra? No. My issue with the Smith-Morra is how easily it's declined. Like, I'll tell any Sicilian player, like, d takes e3, okay, it's a move, right? But I think, like, white has a lot of fun here, especially if they know what they're doing. But just play knight to f6. Like, if you just play knight to f6, like, any Smith-Morra player needs to also know how to face this, and then this is literally just an Alapin. It's literally just an Alapin, right? So here, like, that needs to be in your repertoire anyway as a Sicilian player. What are you doing against the Alapin? You're either playing, like, d5 or knight to f6 probably, but you just play it here, and then this is already transposed to a Smith-Morra here, whereas, you know, if you play Smith-Morra, you do need to learn that. There's no other good move here. Like, you need to play e5. You need to play e5. So that's kind of the annoying thing, that it's just so easily declined. I think a lot of Smith-Morra videos tend to just, like, assume d takes e3 is going to happen, but, you know, my videos, I cover all the best options I try to for the opponent. d5 here is also very, very playable, and here it also kind of just goes into an equal position, like take. Not that white's not doing totally fine here, but there's more you have to know beyond just the gambit being accepted, because d5 here, also black could know that very well if they're a d5 player here. That's just a transposition to this line, right? So you're really just transposing to an Alapin one way or the other. Also, you have to know d5, knight f6, and dc3. So I do see here 55% of people do play d takes c3. Another 15% play d3. But knight to f6 and d5, it's only combines for 18% of games combined. But yeah, that's generally my quip with Smith-Morra, is that it's so easily declined, and there's really just nothing great there other than, like, knowing a lot of mainline theory. So that's why I like here my close Sicilian, or I like the Yang Yang Gambit, and I like the Absence Gambit a little bit here against c3. I have a couple of videos on. Yeah. Am I live streaming me watching YouTube? No, I just clicked on my own video real quick. I didn't play this video. Just showed you where you could find the full breakdowns here. I'm not gonna repeat it all. This is a lot of theory here. A lot of good stuff. All right, appreciate you all. Subscribe here on YouTube. Check out the link tree there. What you want to do to become a true Gambit Chad, join the Discord here. Get notified when I go live. Awesome community. Post new videos. And yeah, learn the Gambit repertoire. Be a Gambit Chad. I appreciate you all.